Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Negishi. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday afternoon, last day of March, at least for this show. And we are fast forwarding to, April, and the baseball season is finally here and upon us. And we'll get to that conversation momentarily, of course. But first, I think it'd be amiss if we don't talk about the NCAA tournament. The Final Four is almost set. We made our picks early on. I thought Illinois has always been my school, even though I never went there. It is shocking that they have actually went all the way to the Elite Eight, beating Houston in their home, literally in Rice University Stadium, which is literally like 2-3 miles from their own campus, by the way. And they did it in a convincing manner. Against Iowa yesterday, it was a classic game where, both teams, just hard fought. And, it was a low scoring game, much like the game in, Houston, Illinois, Iowa, Illinois. Also, were both, somewhat of a low scoring game as well. And, the game itself was nerve wracking for myself, because they got behind like 12-2 or, really, really bad start for Illinois. And I was having a little bit of a flashback of 2024 when UConn just went on a fast start, completely blitzed Illinois, and Illinois just never recovered from that and lost by 30 or more. And of course, UConn just used that to, springboard themselves all the way to the, the championship. So I was expecting more of that 2 years ago, but thankfully Illinois used their length and size to, eventually, take advantage late in the ball game against a very scrappy Iowa team, who beat Nebraska, who was on a Cinderella run of their own, since they have never won an NCAA tournament until this year. It was a good game. Illinois was very resilient. They got into some foul troubles. They got into some bad free throws where they missed like a couple of them early on. They've really, really missed some bad free throws in the key moments in the game when they could have put away. That's their biggest problem. They had a double-digit lead, of course, against Houston. They couldn't put them away as well. But I'm really, really happy for Brad Underwood. I've been skeptical of Underwood this year because of all the defensive lapses in the end, multiple blown leads that has turned into an overtime losses this year. They were bounced in the quarterfinals against Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament. I was livid. I was skeptical. I thought, okay, maybe they might be lucky to get to Sweet 16, but that's pretty much it. But now they're in the Final Four, which is kind of, stunning with the way things are. And it could not have happened, I think, if it wasn't from, Iowa shocking Florida last Sunday in their second round matchup. And certainly I think Illinois really tightened up their defense and really started to utilize their size and strength, dominating Iowa in the game yesterday in the paint, points in the paint, 40-12. Certainly, size mismatch with, Ivisic brothers, who was like literally 7'2" twins. Yeah. Then, Andrei Stojakovic, the son of former NBA great Peja Stojakovic, who was a complete opposite of his father, who was a magnificent shooter, from the beyond the arc. But he is a guy who likes to go inside, take it to the basket, doesn't mind, getting, tangled up and fight for the rebound and defensive wise. David Mirkovic, the freshman sensation from I believe Serbia or either Montenegro, either one of those countries. They have so many of those players from that Balkan region. It's crazy that they've recruited at least 5 of them. They've really meshed well with the American players that they have on their roster, and I'm really excited. Congrats to Brad Underwood. He certainly deserves it. Now, I think right now at this moment, as we speak, the winner of Duke UConn will face Illinois next Saturday. And right now it looks to be Duke who is kind of blowing away UConn in a surprising fashion right now. And barring any miracles, I think it's going to be Duke at this point. And then on the other end today, Michigan completely annihilated Tennessee, who defeated second seed Iowa State on Friday. And it was just simply magnificent. I'm a Big Ten guy, of course. I'm an Illinois fan. Earlier, I think several months ago, when Illinois and Michigan faced each other, it was a real close game. I think it was a Fox Friday night or Saturday night hoops game that was on the air. It was really frustrating. Illinois, it was a game that was completely a mismatch because Illinois just really never got on track and ended up getting fallen behind by 20 and ended up losing in a similar blowout at home. That's when I really started to feel down about the program and the direction where it was going under Brad Underwood, because it was just a mismatch. They were not even close. And then today against Tennessee, it was a blowout. It was like 32-33 win over a Tennessee team from the SEC, the 6th seed. It was just kind of scary just how good Michigan is and how much of a program, they have able to, in just the short years under new coach Trevor May, who came over from Florida Atlantic, coming off of that incredible Final Four run not too long ago, if you remember. And Arizona, who put a Purdue in a spin cycle yesterday, after the Illinois-Iowa game. Arizona looks to be a really great matchup. Michigan, Arizona, that's going to be an amazing Final Four. And for me, Illinois, Duke, man, they faced each other not too long ago, and it was in a neutral site, if I remember, in New York a year ago. And it was a mismatch. Unfortunately, Illinois was completely blown away against Duke in that game. And Ken, what are your thoughts on the Final Four right now? And do you want to change any of the the Final Four possible potential, or do you feel like you're going to still stick with the same teams that you've already kind of picked from the very beginning?
Still think this is Arizona's tournament to lose, although Duke is surprising me with the way that they're killing UConn. I thought UConn would play much better than this. In regards to the Sweet 16 games, Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg is going to be ruining the day about that 4 on the floor. The pass that long pass that he only had 4 players on the floor. Like Don Cherry rues the day of 6 of having too many men on the ice against the Montreal Canadiens in the NHL Stanley Cup semifinals back in 1979. Coaching decisions always come back to haunt you. Fred Hoiberg is going to rue the 4 on the floor for the rest of his coaching career. It's going to haunt him no matter what and wherever he goes. But Iowa, they did a great job. Nebraska was a great story because they had never won an NCAA tournament game, but unfortunately, that 4 on the floor is going to be haunting them for a long time. They were doing very well against Iowa. They were winning for about 35 minutes, and then Iowa started coming back, and then of course that 4 on the floor play really hurt them, and Iowa went into the game and with a hope of going to the Final Four. But as you mentioned, Illinois size. I mean, Iowa just couldn't rebound. They're just too small. They didn't have anybody to the size and the strength of the Eastern European players. and that's an interesting thing, and maybe that's something that the coaches are going to start doing, perhaps recruiting more Eastern European players. But I got to say, Stephen, Illinois is going to be tough against Duke when they play them in the next. And I'm sure that Illinois-Duke game is going to be the late game next Saturday.
I don't know about that. I think Arizona-Michigan game will be a late one.
No, Duke is always early. CBS and Duke is always going to be late. It's always going to be the late game. It doesn't matter. Duke, unless Duke has 5 players that are dying of cancer, they're always going to be the late game for TBS, which will be next week. So I would be surprised if Arizona Michigan is the late game. They'll be the early game, and then Illinois Duke will be the late game. But as far as I'm concerned, Stephen, Duke is going to be very. Michigan is going to be. There's a good possibility of an all Big Ten final next Monday. So there's a possibility of that. If I'm Greg Stanke, I'm really pissed right now because you have Indiana that won the football in the college football playoff. You also have, and of course, Ohio State won the year before in the college football playoff. And then the SEC, Tennessee didn't look like they measured up to Michigan at all. So right now, if I'm the SEC and Greg Stanke and the guy who's felt that we're the best conference in the history of college sports, right now, you're in a situation where you're going to get shut out of not only college football, but college basketball as well. Because, of course, Florida won last year. So, and Florida was eliminated second round.
Yeah. Against Iowa. Yeah.
So, Iowa of all teams. So, yeah, the Big Ten is looking very good this season, especially in the tournament. And I got to say, Stephen, I at least until I see something, Arizona, which actually had some tough time against Purdue yesterday, but then the second half just blew them out. I have to say Arizona is right now still my favorite to win this tournament. I picked them at the beginning. I'm going to stay with them. But Illinois, I could with Duke right now with a 7-man rotation, Stephen.
Yeah,
I can see Illinois winning the game next Saturday night. But it's
going to be a tough matchup. I can tell you that. Underwood versus John Shire, who is a former high school star in the state of Illinois. Certainly, that will be brought up. Illinois making their first trip to the Final Four since 2005. I was actually had finished up school, and I was actually ended up sticking around after I finished the year before in grad school, and I ended up leaving to go back to Japan before I was were able to watch the Final Four, unfortunately. So it's been that long since Illinois were actually in the Final Four. And Illinois basketball program is the closest thing to their athletic program being in a like a national title contender, or at least very close to winning the national titles in the past. And now football program is kind of made his significant progress under Brett Bielema. Of course, women's basketball program is heading in the right direction after years and years of being just a program that was so irrelevant anyway, as well. So, hopefully, Brad Underwood, this was 39 years in the making. He's always said this was a program that he wanted to coach, and he got the job 9 years ago, I believe. And, took him a while, to help get the program off and running. He went through some embarrassing losses, most noticeably the 2021, 5 years ago, when they were beaten by Loyola of Chicago with Sister Jean there, if you remember, in that COVID, tournament where they were embarrassed. And, from that point on, they had, losses in the round of 32, 64. They had a nice breakout at, Elite Eight in 2 years ago, but that was completely overshadowed when UConn just blitzed them, embarrassed them in the Elite Eight. So we'll
So
see.
that right now, Duke, UConn has gotten closer to Duke. It's now 60-51 as they're in the media timeout. So,
How many
Duke,
minutes are there left right now?
I didn't see, but they're getting closer right now. So, and there's a controversial play about a foul call that looked to
Okay.
be blocked, like should have been an offensive foul on Duke, but I guess called against UConn. So they went to a timeout. They can't review the play, but of course, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So, good to see UConn making a game of it, and hopefully, maybe they can beat Duke. Who knows? We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. Right now, Duke has the upper hand. They've been way ahead of UConn, up by as many as 15, but right now, UConn under 10, under double digits for the first time since the game began. So this is good to see that the UConn kids right now. Oh, it's already 62-51. And I'm trying to see how much time is left. They're coming back from the media timeout, so they scored the two. So it should have been an offensive foul, then a travel. I'm trying to see here. Yeah, it's really it looks like first of all, Duke player just buried his head, and so it's right now 8 minutes left. So still plenty of time.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. If UConn can make a run, for their, their another Final Four run is in them, or is this the end of like a UConn run? Is this something that Bobby Hurley? Does he does he want to? This is going to be very interesting. Is Dan Hurley?
Yeah, you said Bobby.
Dan Hurley. Yeah, I apologize. Dan Hurley.
Well, Bobby
it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, right. And a former Duke point guard as well, I might add. Right. Anyway, Dan Hurley, it's going to be very interesting. If UConn does end, I think that's kind of like the end of their maybe bit of a. Well, I'm not saying they're going to fall off a cliff. I'm saying, can they sustain this run? Is this maybe Dan Hurley decide to close his chapter and go his luck with the pros and stuff like that? It's been rumored before.
I know it's been rumored, but he's where he rejected the Lakers already, and now here's a steal by UConn. But he's not going anywhere. He loves it in stores, and Gino Auriemma is making sure he's got everything he wants over there. So I don't think that Dan Hurley would leave there at this point. So we'll
see.
I don't see Dan Hurley leaving.
Okay, well let's see what happens. UConn has 8 minutes to save their season. Against Duke right now. Anything else you want to add about the tournament?
Yeah, about the women, and the three-pointer just hit there by UConn. So they're now 62 down 7, 62-55. We'll see if John Shire tightens up here, because there have been times when Duke gets really close, they start to tighten up, and then they don't play as well. They're usually a team that can play ahead and then keep going. But if they're given a little bit of a challenge, although they just hit a three-pointer themselves, they have a tendency to tighten up, and John Shire has a tendency to make some very questionable coaching decisions. Over to the women's side, Stephen, got to mention that UConn on the other side looking very good. They defeated Notre Dame and Hannah Hidalgo today in the Fort Worth Regional, the Fort Worth 2 Regional. For some reason, the NCAA has made just 2 regions for the women to play instead of having 4 regional sites. And
right.
Gino Auriemma criticized that for once again. Now down to 65-58, a 7-point game. Dan Hurley is trying to get the crowd going, and it's going to be an interesting time during the stretch to see if UConn can pull this out. But in the meantime, UConn has advanced to the Final Four with their win over Notre Dame today, and then UCLA looking very good. Kerry Close has done a great job with their team. They defeated Duke, as an interesting fact. They defeated them today in the Sacramento Regional. Now tomorrow there are 2 games. South Carolina taking on TCU. South Carolina is looking like a bulldozer, just like it has in previous seasons. Of course, they lost the national championship last year to UConn, and then it'll be Texas and Michigan in this Sacramento 4 region. Both games on ESPN, but it's been a lot of excitement. It's been some good basketball on both the men's and the women's side. UConn is looking very good. They're hitting all cylinders. They're looking extremely good. They had a difficult game against North Carolina in the Sweet 16 in the very first quarter. They were down 12-11, but then pulled out all the stops and pretty much blew them away. Gino Auriemma, it looks like he had several down years, but with Paige Beckers won the championship last year. He has Sarah Strong, who looks like to be the player of the year this year for the women's college basketball. Right. So we'll see how that goes, and if UConn can win another national championship 2 in a row, or if UCLA or Michigan can be the ones that stop them, or South Carolina. So we'll see what happens, especially tomorrow to fill out the women's Final Four tomorrow.
Absolutely. I wanted to share something from the show earlier on CBS about, the road to the Final Four. I think it was also featured in your website, awful announcing as well, when Charles Barkley spoke in regarding the immigration, because they were doing a feature on UConn forward Alex Caravan, who's a mother and a father is an immigrant. I believe his father is of Ukrainian national descent, and his mother is his father is from Belarus. I apologize. And his mother is of Ukrainian descent. So I wanted to kind of share what he had to say in regards to the immigration.
That is, we got to be careful about that. We may get a strike on that. Be careful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we get that. That's copyrighted from CBS, so we have to be careful. If you have our website, if you have the
right
announcing, if you have the awful announcing recap, you can click on that and we can share what he said. We can't really play that video.
All right, I'm gonna just pull up a video. The unfair treatment of immigrants in the U.S. on CBS March Madness show. Literally, so he was, being very, very
critical. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, critical. So amazing. He basically spoke about touchy subject to the immigration policy about the amazing immigrants and a better treatment of the foreign-born individuals in the U.S. I love that kid and his family, but the way some of the other immigrants are treated in this country right now is a travesty and disgrace. Only somebody like Charles Barkley could actually speak up on this subject matter. I give him strong kudos to him as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And,
by the way, I got a friend of my show who was on the late last year, Lon Phillips Sullivan from LSU Odyssey. Great stuff as always, Stephen. Thank you, Lon. Thank you as always for watching the show all the way from Utah. Hopefully we'll get to talk to him again, because right now I know LSU is a program that's having some massive, massive, PR. Well, not the PR problems, but the way they Will Wade, who left the program a year ago to go to North Carolina State, and now he's back a year later in some very facetious matter. So hopefully we'll get to talk to him about that in the near future as well. Thank you so much, Lon, for watching the show as always. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate you. LSU versus the world, baby. Okay, thank you, Lon. Keep watching, and I appreciate it. Okay, so that's going to be the final closing argument in regards to the NCAA. Let's move on to the MLB.
Go ahead. Say this. Larry Ellison, who owns CBS,
Paramount.
David Ellison, who's the owner who has the primary holder in
Oracle. He's the founder and CEO of Oracle as well.
Of Larry Ellison. he may not like what Charles Barkley said. I mean, Barkley had kudos to him for saying it. And right now, Duke, UConn is just down 3 points to Duke now. A timeout with 3:42 left. So Duke is holding on. I mentioned this. Duke has been, when they're challenged, there's some things that they don't do very well. And right now, if UConn can pull this off, that would be absolutely a great thing for them. And of course, that would not be great for TBS because they want the ratings for Duke. But UConn is a brand name, so that'll be interesting to see if they can pull this off. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep you updated, of course. Of course, if you're watching, that's fine. Have us on as a second screen. We appreciate that as well. Alon, you're absolutely right about Ellison being an enemy of America. But yeah, Ellison he has basically canceled 2 shows. One Watson with a black lead, and also another show with a black lead as well.
DMB, Tim Meadows, formerly of SNL. Now, the problem is Tim Meadows was one of the actors, and I believe it was the Variety that posted a picture on both 2 black men to make it look like, they had some sort of an agenda. And I know Variety has been getting a lot of criticisms in the past for the portrayals or how they perceive, minority actors compared to the other outlets, like, say, for example, the Hollywood Reporters. Although, I would have never. Yeah. Right. Although I would say that neither magazines are not exactly what you call a, something that you should feel comfortable, or should it be like this magazine is better versus this one, or at least this publication is better, and so forth, based on the the political leanings. Because in the end, I think neither are basically, either magazines are both certainly being controlled by a certain level of, interest, political spectrum, and all of that. But anyway, Ken, thank you. Thanks for closing arguments there. Let's talk about the MLB baseball. The season is finally here. This week, I had a great conversation with the Alex Pat from who I've spoken in the past to talk about the Cubs, and then Joe Roderick from the St. Louis Sports Central this week to talk about the baseball season, as well as his trip to the World Baseball Classic, where he toured and covered Japan and the other teams that was actually in that pool during the World Baseball Classic preliminaries. So thanks to both of them. Let's start off with our conversations in regards to our prediction. AL East. Let's start with that one. Yankees. Is the Yankees still your favorite to win that division, or do you feel like the Red Sox, your neck of the woods team?
The Red Sox management is horrible. As a Red Sox fan, I would love nothing more than to see the Yankees by the wayside, but Red Sox management just doesn't want to spend. They'll look like they're spending, but then they'll have a cap, and then they'll trade somebody away. I'm not convinced that this management cares anymore, especially since after 2018, when they defeated the Dodgers, and then they allowed Mookie Betts to go away. So I'm not convinced that this team is a contender. They'll probably get to the playoffs as a wild card like they did last season. They'll back in probably. But I still have to say, unfortunately, the Yankees will be my pick for this. Baltimore, I'm hoping Baltimore rises a little bit, but there's some questions about them as well. Although Toronto, I'm actually going to say no. Toronto is actually going to be my pick because
Toronto. Okay.
They lost Bichette. I think Toronto can take this division again, and I think there's some signs there that they can actually remember the last time we went to the playoffs. We didn't see them in 2015. We didn't see them again. I think this is not a one-off. I think they can get back to the playoffs, and I think they can actually make some hay. And I would love to see them play the Dodgers again, but they lost Bichette. That's a big loss to Philadelphia. He left almost like the week after the World Series. But I think, Steven, that right now Toronto is my pick. New York will be my pick for a wild card. Red Sox, they back in. and then Baltimore, unfortunately, would be my pick for last. But I think Baltimore's going to be, a tough out also in the American League East.
Central, I have Detroit as their favorite,
Yeah,
and also I went as far as to say, Detroit will be in the. I'll go ahead and say it again. I think Detroit will win the AL pennant. To be honest, I think Tarek Skubal, this could be his literally, I believe, his last hurrah with the Tigers. We'll see how much he's motivated, and certainly the way he acted throughout the World Baseball Classic. Certainly deserves some, side eye about how he wanted to pitch for them, and then he ended up leaving and blah blah blah, and complaining about how he's being unfairly treated and all of that nonsense. So we'll see how much he's, motivated to, pitch for the Tigers. Certainly, down the stretch when he took himself out against the Seattle in the divisional series, there's always going to be that in the back of your mind if you're a Tigers fan or Tigers teammates about how much does he want to pitch for this team this year, to win the pennant and all of that. We'll see about it. But I still think the Tigers, I saw Kevin McGonigal, their top rookie, just belted, really played well in the San Diego season opener. We'll see how much he's able to, contribute as a rookie. Certainly looks good so far. That's my pick for the ALCS and AL pennant myself. I think the rest of the division is just basically a toss-up. I think Minnesota and Chicago might be battling for the last, the bottom on the Central. 90, 100 wins. 90 or even close to 100 losses is certainly not out of the question, especially how bad the White Sox started out against Milwaukee this series. Kansas City, I think, with Pasquantino and Bobby Witt are, and Salvador Perez, they're going to be a real tough out. But, I don't know how much pitching do they have that they can keep up in the race. How do you see the ALC Central?
Yeah, I also see Detroit winning that. I'd like to see Cleveland rise up.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yep, that's true.
And Kansas City will also be, as you mentioned, will be a tough out. I hate to see what happens to the Chicago White Sox, but their ownership just doesn't care. They don't think that all they want to do is they want to find the next deal so they can find a way to move the team. That's what my feeling. But it's a disgrace what the Chicago White. This is a proud franchise, and it's won a World Series back in 2005, the year after the Red Sox won theirs. And this is a team that really should have been well maintained, but it's not. And the ownership doesn't care. They just care more about making money than they care about putting a good product on the field. Minnesota baffles me. I really think that this should be doing, but the Pohlad family still trying to sell. And then also, as I mentioned, Cleveland and Kansas City will probably be battling for wild cards, maybe getting 2 wild cards in the division, and we'll see what happens there. But Detroit is right. The choice to, is pretty much the class of the division, Stephen.
AL West, I think Seattle finally get their act together and win the division for a change. I think Houston, losing Frander Valdez might be deplete their starting rotation. I know he was a bit of a guy who caused a lot of trouble down the stretch. There was one moment last year where he ignored his catcher's sign and just threw and hit him, literally in the chest. Thankfully for that, the protector and all of that. But there was a bit of a, craziness that, he displayed, which he drew a widespread criticism for how he acted. Maybe, they got, they didn't re-sign him for a reason. He ended up going to the Tigers as a, possible replacement for Skubal in the subsequent years. This is, I think, Seattle's time to win the division, with Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena. I know there was a bit of a bad blood we didn't touch on, between Arozarena and Cal Raleigh in the World Baseball Classic, which thankfully and hopefully they bury that, hatchet behind once and for all. And, it's, hopefully Seattle, I think, they can win that division. Oakland has a great young nucleus. I know I said Oakland, it's a bad habit, the
I know.
Athletics or whatever
I
the
don't
hell they
know.
are now these days.
Oh, Sacramento.
They
They're
have
in
a
Sacramento.
very good young nucleus of hitters, Kurtz, Wilson, Soderstrom. But I think it's a team on the rise, but I don't think they will, they're lucky to probably reach 500 at this point. They got swept by Toronto to start the season so far. The Angels are an absolute joke under Artie Moreno. So I think it's pretty much a Seattle's division to lose.
Yeah, Houston has been that class of the division. They've been winning by default. But right now, Seattle has closed the gap. And I think the Mariners I agree with you, we're going to win this time around. Houston is still a threat to the playoffs, and the rest of the division is, it is what it is. As you mentioned, Sacramento is just not. They're building for the day that they actually set foot in Las Vegas, which will be in 2028. And then Anaheim, that team's got to get sold. Artie Moreno is an embarrassment. He's got to sell. I don't know why. You don't remember he put it up for the market and then decided to pull it back. That was the worst thing that happened to that team. He's got to sell that team because, I've been to that ballpark when Ohtani was there, Stephen, a few years ago. The only thing that was keeping them together and the attendance was the Japanese community. Now that Ohtani is gone, there's nothing for people to watch in Anaheim. And the only time that the people will come is is when the Dodgers come and visit the Angels in interleague play. So that's horrible. And the team and the fans deserve much better than that.
Who's your pick for the?
Is now up 70-69. 45 seconds left to go. UConn does not have to foul, so we'll see how this comes about. We'll keep an eye on it. But go ahead.
Who's your pick for the AL pennant winner?
Oh, I said Toronto. I think Toronto.
Okay, Toronto. Win. Okay. AL MVP. My pick. I think Aaron Judge is a good one, but
probably. I'd like to see Kyle Raleigh win it. If Raleigh has another great season and can put together what he did last season, but unfortunately, New York media pretty much dominates as long as Aaron Judge. If Aaron Judge hits 20 home runs, the New York media is going to go crazy and vote for him. And Michael Kay on Yes Network is going to say, "Oh, he deserves the MVP." Kyle Raleigh, although I think if he has a season like he did last season, and it comes anywhere close to what Aaron Judge can do, or even surpass it, he should win. He can win the MVP.
If Toronto can get back into pennant like you expect, I think Vlad Guerrero will play a huge role, and I would not be shocked if Vlad Guerrero should deserve to be mentioned in the conversation for the AL MVP. Cy Young Award from the AL. I think until otherwise, I have to put it on Tarek Skubal to win another one before he eventually leaves Detroit for wherever it is. All right, let's move on to the National League. NL East. It's basically the Mets and the Phillies, division for me. I still think this is I think the last hurrah for the Phillies. They're getting up there age wise. I think the Mets are a pretty good team, of course. The Mets or the Phillies, whoever wins it, I think it will come down to maybe close to the last game, and I think you better believe that the Mets really have to start winning some of these. Otherwise, Steve Cohen will probably start, do some house cleaning, maybe front office, managerial side, I do believe that the Mets are probably have more pressure and incentive to win. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, right now, well, first of all, UConn with a chance to tie the game, 72-69. Duke has it. Last possession, UConn may probably go for the last shot. 16 seconds left. They're looking for a 3 right now. They're at the logo. 12 seconds left. Now they're going to try, and they got fouled. Of course, Duke will foul, in this case, foul before the 3-point shot was made. So that'll force UConn to go to the line. I think that Philadelphia, I have a bias against the New York Mets. And not only that, every time they do something silly, I call it Metsy. They've risen, of course. They got to the playoffs last season. I still think, though, the Mets will find a way to be very Metsy and hand the division to Philadelphia. I mean, we've seen it before. They found a way in the last few, even when the Philadelphia Phillies were going in their heyday, going to the World Series, Steven, the Mets would find a way to lose in Miami the final weekend of the season. I don't know what it is about the Mets. It's just historically. I mean, they're a sad sack franchise. They deserve better, but I do think that Philadelphia will win the division.
Central, my Cubs got off to a very bad start, losing 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals. Unfortunately, they're kind of suddenly spending money all of a sudden. They spent to sign Alex Bregman in late December. They extended PCA Peter Crow Armstrong. Great move. He's going to be the face in the cornerstone.
UConn got a steal. They go for 3. Oh, it's good. That's good with 3 seconds left. UConn with a 3. They go up 73-72 on Duke. Oh my goodness! The 3 from the logo.
Oh, they now lead it by 1. They lead it by 1.
I just told you. I just said they lead by 1.
I apologize.
Here it is. Caravan threw the 3. It was at the logo, and it swished through. Oh my goodness!
Oh my God! Now 0.3 seconds to go. This is just literally Hail Mary now.
The only thing they can do is a tip-in. The only thing, it's not a catch and shoot. The only thing that Duke can do is a tip-in, and it has to be full court. We'll see what happens. Wow. Just wow.
Wow.
That's their first lead of the game. I think that's the UConn's first lead of the game.
Terrible pass that got stolen.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
John, I told you Duke, when they're challenged like this, does silly things. It's not. I don't think that's not John Shire's fault. I have blamed him a lot in the past, but that is a situation where the kids, he tried to throw a pass up high. It was stolen. Caravan had it, then it passed it back. And with 3-point shot, it's now UConn up 73-72, 0.3 seconds left. Timeout now by Duke. They're going to try to inbound the ball. This is an amazing comeback. First lead since 1647 in the first half when UConn was up 2-0. 1847. So there's a replay here of the pass. They were really having trouble with the press, Steven. And then really,
and the Duke guy tried to throw with two players already, with their walls like a volleyball.
Yeah. So, and a great pass, great awareness, shooting from the logo at half court. That's amazing. That was a great shot. And right now, they put 1/10 of a second back on the clock, 0.4 seconds. The only thing they could do is a tip in. They can't catch and shoot. The throw down full court is knocked down. The game is over. UConn wins. UConn has defeated Duke. Duke is out.
Wow. So Illinois. Yeah.
UConn. Wow. This is going to be fun because UConn has the size to combat Illinois. So that's going to be a great game. I have a feeling, Steven, that UConn-Illinois game will be the late game. I have a feeling it's going to be the late game because UConn and you've got Illinois. You have a Chicago market that loves Illinois. UConn is a blue blood school trying to get back. UConn had no business winning this game, but Duke nailed down the stretch. I told you, when they're challenged, Duke does some really silly things, and this is the silliest thing of all. You're trying to throw a pass with 2 men in front of you. You should throw it to the side instead of trying to force a pass, and the 3-pointer hits. This is great television we just saw here. If you watch it with us, UConn with the win, and they win 73-72. They first lead since the beginning of the game when UConn took a 2-0 lead. Duke was blitzing them, but they just, again, you have a 7-man rotation. You get tired. You just start. You can't make plays. UConn just stayed with the plan, and UConn wins. They go to the Final Four out of the East. They will take on Illinois, which won from the Midwest. Dan Hurley is going crazy, and Dan Hurley, who coached I will never say anything bad about Dan Hurley. He coached my URI team into a couple of NCAA tournaments. Great job by him. A 2-time national champion. He's going crazy with Tracy Wilson. So, Duke out of the national championship, the overall number 1 seed. The Final Four is pretty much wide open now, Stephen. Without Duke, you've got UConn and Illinois. You've got
Michigan, Arizona. Arizona.
Arizona is still my pick. But, if Michigan can play like they did today, Arizona could get blitzed out of the building. And, Illinois and UConn, that's going to be a really, really tough fight. It's going to be a tough fight. And some great, that's going to be some fun to watch with the Eastern European kids taking on Caravan of UConn going for another championship. He's going to try and win his 3rd overall championship. He's won 2 before. We'll see what happens with UConn. That's going to be a fun game in the Final Four. This is going to be a great Final Four. I really have a feeling, Stephen.
I hope so too. All right, back to the baseball. NL Central. My Cubs got off to a bad start against the Nationals. I still remain hopeful. As I was saying, they spend money on Bregman.
Let me give you the schedule for next week. It'll be Illinois Duke UConn will be the first game at 6:09, followed by Michigan Arizona.
Aha.
So
okay.
Michigan,
with the Duke out of the way, UConn, and then they decided to cater to Arizona because they're about 3 hours behind time zones to make it a little more easier for the Arizona fans in the state of Arizona to catch up. I think 9 o'clock or something like that, right?
Yeah, it'll be about. I mean, that doesn't really matter. I mean, TBS and TNT, the scheduling doesn't matter, but they just put. I think Michigan and Arizona is going to be a fun game to watch in the nightcap.
Yep.
So first game at 6:09, and then about 8:49 Eastern time will be the second game, Michigan and Arizona. It'll be fun to watch next week. It'll be fun to watch next Saturday, and that'll Indianapolis. Illinois will be going there in mass, as will Michigan, Stephen. So it's going to be a Big Ten themed Final Four.
Yep. It will be just that. All right. The Cubs spent, again, they gave Nico Horner a 6-year, $141 million extension with no trade clause today, actually, 2 days ago. And, they had a press conference just after the game ended today. I'm very, very shocked that all of a sudden the Cubs are spending money now, to keep their own players as well as getting, somebody else, outside of the organization. But again, this certainly, pale in comparison to the money that, the Dodgers are spending on Shohei Ohtani with a lot of deferred money and everything. Of course, they also spend another big one on Kyle Tucker this past off season as well. Could they stop the Dodgers? Well, we'll see. The pitching is a pretty, huge question mark right now. Shota Imanaga got, lost today, gave up a big 3-run home run in the first inning. Matthew Boyd, the Cubs opener, the pitcher in their season opener, did not look good, kind of tailed off significantly in the 4th inning. Jamison Tyone, just doesn't have doesn't throw hard enough. He's always in his 90-91 range. Excuse me, much like, Boyd and, Shota Imanaga. So that's going to be a huge question mark for the Cubs moving forward. Find the and develop young, hard-throwing pitchers who can punch out rather than relying on ground balls and fly balls, especially on a windy day like today as well. But I still keep my hopes that, even with a bad start, I think the Cubs should be able to win the NL Central. What are your thoughts, Ken?
It would be a great story. I'm just really amazed the fall of the St. Louis Cardinals, Stephen, in this division.
Yeah, that was something that Joe Roderick and I talked about. Being from St. Louis. But go ahead.
Yep. I mean, here's a team that had dominated the Central for so many years, won World Series in the team, and now here they are. They're like, fans don't care. I've never seen a situation where fans don't go to Busch Stadium, and I'm really surprised by that.
Yep. A lot of empty seats.
It's a great rivalry, and it should be top and center of the National League. But instead, fans aren't going. They don't care, and it's really sad to see. I really wish that I don't know how this happened. It just seemed to be a precipitous fall. It seemed right after the COVID, St. Louis just stopped caring the ownership. So I don't know what's going on over there, and I really wish that they find a way to correct the ship. The Reds. I can't see them going challenging this season.
No.
I really can't see anybody else at this point. The Cubs will probably win this division by default.
Mm-hmm. Milwaukee, certainly, even with the loss of Freddie Peralta and all of that stuff, I think this is a team that's still going to be very, very tough. NL West, it's the Dodgers. I think it's the Dodgers. No comparison. I think we could leave it at that. All right, NL MVP, still Shohei Ohtani.
And I'm going to say Ohtani will find a way to do so well with pitching. He will win the Cy Young.
Okay. We'll see. That's a one hell of an accomplishment, winning both the MVP and Cy Young.
Yes, Ohtani. We know that Ohtani's not going to be focusing a lot on pitching, but he has pride, and I think he'll find a way to win 11 to 12 games, and that will be enough to win the Cy Young award.
Mm-hmm. Cy Young. So that's your pick as well, right?
Cy Young. I say Ohtani wins both the Cy Young and the MVP.
Oh, that's a gaudy prediction. I will say Skeens until otherwise. I know. The other day against the Mets in the season opener, his defense let him down, especially.
It wasn't his fault. It wasn't like
No. I know. Those are like the moments that unfortunately might hold him back. But I still think that Skeens is very good. That until otherwise, I think he might be the best pitcher in the NL. But that's just me. World Series, Dodgers, Tigers. I still say Dodgers in 7. What do you say?
I'll say the Blue Jays get back. I think Vladdy will carry the Toronto Blue Jays on his back. They still have some pitching there as well. I think it will be. I'd love to see Toronto defeat the Dodgers in 7.
Okay, so the revenge of the 2025 season, of course.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk quickly about the opening day shenanigans on TV. This year NBC has the Sunday night game package. It's no longer on ESPN. I think we'll find out if NBC can make people forget about the ESPN days. They used to own the Sunday night for many years. And of course, in your Substack, by the way, Ken, if you don't mind sharing, you shared your thoughts today on the Netflix debacle, which they brought everybody from Jameis Winston to the Usos from World Wrestling Entertainment. It was just like basically all over the place. Their score board on screen was also not well received at all. What are your thoughts on the opening day, shenanigans on TV?
I don't blame Netflix for promoting its programming and bringing out its comedians and Jay Uso and Jacob Fatu. They're actually from the Bay Area, which that's fine. I don't mind that. It's just the fact that it was really in your face. They just really said, "This is Netflix. We're Netflix. We can do this because we're Netflix. We're Netflix, and we're Netflix." That was basically what it was. Matt Vasgersian, who called. What's interesting, he called the Netflix game that opening night, and then flew across the country and called NBC's opening game afternoon for NBC that the following day. He gets a Hustle Award for that. But overall, I think, Stephen, that Netflix could have done a lot better. They have 3 games this season. They're going to show not only the opening night, they're also going to do the home run derby. I expect more shenanigans from Netflix there, but I think in a case where they're also going to show the Field of Dreams game in Iowa in August. That's a game where it has to show a little bit more respect. So we'll see how Netflix does there. But you have Netflix comedians coming off of a trolley yelling, "This is baseball." We don't really need to be reminded that this is baseball. We know what we're watching. But overall, I just think that Netflix was trying to show its muscle that it can do. I mean, there are times when it can do big events, and this is following that strategy, their opening night strategy, but they didn't have a history with baseball. So it showed.
Yeah.
It really did show. As far as the following day, NBC, they again show why that they're one of the best in televising sports. They when they went back to the NHL, when they went back to the NBA in November, they relied on nostalgia and also respect for the game, and they didn't fall into traps like ESPN does with false narratives. Same thing on the other night, on Thursday night. They had a day-night doubleheader. They have Bob Costas voice an open. They tapped into some of their baseball tradition from the 1980s, and I think that was a good move. And I think it showed that NBC gave it a big event feel. And I think that's a great move. And they have baseball again tonight on Peacock. They'll also have an NBA doubleheader tonight, which is airing right now as we speak. So I think that, ESPN is still going to do games on Monday and Wednesday night. ESPN is still involved in Major League Baseball. They just won't have the playoffs. NBC will take the first round of the wild card, which was on ESPN and ABC last year. NBC will take it. I think this is an audition with Major League Baseball's contract coming up in 2028. This is an audition for NBC to perhaps take over, because if with the NFL trying to get renegotiate its contracts, there'll be some money that some of the networks may not be able to keep some of the properties. Major League Baseball could find a new home in NBC, and I think that would be a very good move. I mean, if you have Jason Minetti calling a World Series, I would like that. Matt Vasgersian, if he calls a playoff game, not everybody likes him, but at least to get people and voices who do the games right, and and maybe perhaps this will prevent John Smoltz from complaining about everything on Fox. So we'll see what happens. But this is an audition for the next couple of seasons for NBC to take over the baseball contract, and we'll see if they can do it. It'd be great to see them back covering the World Series, because the last time they televised the World Series was in 1990, I think 1998, 1999, I believe it was, Stephen. And then, Fox has been broadcasting every World Series since 2000. So, with the exception of COVID. So we'll see if NBC can take over. It's an audition for them. And if Major League Baseball likes what it sees and Fox doesn't want to pay up for baseball after renegotiating its contracts with the NFL, it'd be great to see NBC back.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the toward the end of our program, the final word segment. And there are some couple of interesting things to certainly talk about. First of all, let's talk about Tiger Woods' arrest a couple of nights ago. DUI where he flipped the vehicle. Certainly, he wasn't arrested for drunk driving, but he was impaired. I don't know if it was the drugs or whatever.
It was suspicion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know the history involving Tiger and the driving. Certainly, it's a tough thing to swallow and maybe accept about just how much it's very, very difficult just to see how much this man has fallen off. I believe he's almost 49, I believe, if not by now. So he's pushing 50 years old. And, for a man that really transformed the golf from a very young age, it's just sad to see where things are with Tiger Woods. And, I'm really, really worried that he's going to either kill someone or God forbid, kill himself one way or another. As if this, if he continues to take this road, moving forward. What are your thoughts on, where things are with Tiger Woods in his future? Because he did certainly look like he was, fairly active, with the match play, with the, what he was, recently and everything, and now that's kind of completely out of the window now. And, I wonder what else is left for Tiger Woods to do now moving forward.
Well, there's a problem here. Okay. Someone after his last accident should have taken the keys from him. Just say, look, Tiger, you're rich enough. You can have a driver. And his management was not strong enough to say, Tiger, no. He just consent, and he had a situation where, of course, he had a bad situation. He drove off the road in Los Angeles, his last accident, at a high speed, driving through a residential neighborhood, and he flew off the road, and it was really bad. And he broke, and that's the
situation. It was in California. Yeah, that was in California.
He broke his back. He broke his leg, and that really impaired him from playing golf the last few years. And it was, interestingly enough, that same day, of all people, the president, that guy in the White House, who I don't like to mention, said that he was going to try to play in the Masters. Well, that's not happening now.
Well, I mean, Trump was the one who literally leaked that he's not going to play in the.
Yeah. And one of the dumbest things is that you drive, and I'm not going to say he drove drunk, but it looked like the police say he was looking like signs of impairment. And he drove.
Maybe he was taking too many medications for his back problems and just kind of acted in loopy or something, perhaps.
Right. But he drove in a way recklessly that if there was someone coming in oncoming traffic, the accident could have been much worse. There could have been people hurt. There could have been people killed. He was driving at a high rate of speed. And again, someone's got to take the keys from him. And it's not funny. People were making jokes on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm not going to do that. He is a guy that needs to have the keys taken from him. It's just no doubt that, like I said, there's someone who could have been hurt. There's someone who could have been killed the way he was driving. And he basically, his Land Rover was a rollover. And they're luckily that no one was killed or hurt in this situation. It was just Tiger himself that was able to climb out of his own car. I just feel that the management has to say no this time. And you said, look, you need some help. We can get drivers. You're rich enough. You can have a driver. Don't worry. Whenever you want to go out, we'll get a driver for you. He'll be on call for you 24/7. And if you want to go out and get a hamburger, or if you want to go out and get your medication, or if you want to go out and see your kids, we'll have a driver, and they'll be safe. Okay.
Right.
You can't. And his management and his people have got to say no. And that's the problem. They didn't say no, or they weren't strong enough. And Tiger says, no, I can drive. Well, no, you can't. You can't drive. This is the fourth accident. The fourth accident where he could have hurt. He's hurt himself so far, Stephen.
Mhm.
There's going to be a situation, if a situation like this happens again, he could hurt somebody else. And then what? Everything, all his legacy is out the window. Any goodwill he had is out the window. Right now, any goodwill he has right now is out the window. So
Right, whatever that is left of him. Yeah.
yeah, you gotta he cannot someone has to take the keys away from him. It has to be taken away. There's no if and or buts here. You need to just have a driver. You're rich enough. You have get a driver, take you someplace, have someone be there for him to take a ride, and no more of this nonsense, because the next time could be fatal, and nobody wants that.
No, I'm sharing an article from Daily Mail, UK tabloid, that Secret Service was even warning that Tiger should not even be driving at all, because he's dating Vanessa Trump, and their kids. Tiger should not be driving. That's just how bad it is. I don't know if it was leaked out just to make Tiger look even more worse in the eyes of many people. So we'll find out. Or maybe we'll take it with a grain of salt here. But it does not surprise me that given the all the troubles that Tiger has had, in such a short time, within a 5-year span, and all the accidents that he has been involved in, with his infidelity, and of course back problems, and then now this. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if he has a serious problem, and unfortunately, maybe Tiger is probably better off. May not only about playing golf, but maybe just literally take a sabbatical for the rest of his life. Just basically, set out anything golf related events, charity events, none of that stuff, and maybe he's just basically, who knows, it's probably in his best interest to live out in infamy, without being seen by anybody else, a tabloid, or just avoid public. Who knows?
By the way, one of the dumbest articles that came out this week, New York Post, saying that Kai Trump, the 15-year-old daughter of the person he's dating,
grandchildren, yeah,
was not in the car. What does that have to do? I mean, everybody mocked the article, saying I too was on Earth when this accident happened. First of all, why mention Kai Trump? Why mention the 15-year-old? She wasn't even near there. So why do you mention that? So anyway, very silly. But again, all that aside, like I said, Tiger needs to not drive anymore. Someone needs to take the keys, and that's all I have to say about that.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, yesterday, the U.S. men's national team were in action. It's the international break for many countries right now, which is why you don't see Premier League, Liga, La Liga, and the other leagues around the Europe. Yeah, they were in hiatus. The U.S. got blasted 5-2 by Belgium in Atlanta yesterday, and it was a game that was bad itself, as well as what was happening on the field as well as off the field. First of all, a lot of the complaints were being made about both teams, uniform. They both look the same, and there were a lot of complaints about, the fans couldn't distinguish which was Belgium and the U.S., of course. And I think the score kind of speaks for itself, the uniform or not, first of all. And then the water break that was implemented in this upcoming tournament, because we know how hot the U.S. is usually in June or July, around that time. It was widely criticized. An indoor stadium. Remember, folks, Atlanta has Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is a climate-controlled dome, which is also the home of the Atlanta Falcons, and the SEC championship game is being held. They had a water break, even though inside the dome stadium, for whatever reasons, which was probably I understand the rules are rules, but it certainly did not make sense being played indoors in a closed environment. And then the one thing that really, really burns my chaps is the way that U.S. played. They were actually leading 1-0 around the 30-35 minute with the corner kick that was scored by Weston McKennie. But then just before the first half was about to end, Matt Turner makes a great save punching the ball. The ball was picked up by Belgium player. He shot it from really, really far distance, and then Turner just couldn't really save the ball. And from that point on, it was just an embarrassment. In the second half, they both sides agreed to like a 11 substitution that they could make for whatever reasons. Mauricio Pochettino, USA's team head coach, brought in Christian Roldan, Seb Berhalter, son of Greg Berhalter, the former USMNT head coach. And then I'm trying to remember who else that he brought in for whatever reasons. It's just basically, Max Arfston. Some people call him Barfston by putting the B in front of him because of how bad he plays defensively. And then the U.S. conceded 4 goals in the 20-30 minute span in the second half. Just basically was completely destroyed. The defense is a massive problem, starting with, they played 4-2-3-1, 4 defenders, 2 midfielders, and then 3 attacking midfielders and 1 forward and Florian Balogun. What happened was, because the wing backs were coming and then they had to, forced to be defended, that left them with 2 center backs. For whatever reasons, Pochettino decided to go with four defensive backs, and then put in a goalkeeper in Matt Turner, who has not been very good, instead of his regular in Brian Fries, who is also not exactly what you call a reliable goalkeeper, say in the level of, Tim Howard, Casey Keller, for those old school U.S. soccer fans who are used to seeing great goalkeepers, in the past. But, it was just simply a disastrous, performance. Tim Ream, one of the starting defenders on that play for FC Charlotte, somehow always keeps getting starts, even at his advanced age of 35 or 36 years old. Mm-hmm. He just can't defend. He is absolutely horrible. He looks, yesterday at one of the photos I saw him, he looks like a 40, 45-year-old player for some reason out there. We talked about the Noah Kai Bank situation, Ken, the last week, about a German-American young teenager who is kind of mulling, the decisions of whether to play for U.S. or Germany. It looks like he's wanting to play for Germany, which I don't think at this point you can do much about it until, you pray for a miracle and maybe Noah Kai decides to change his mind, whether it's before or even hopefully after the World Cup is over. Because this was an embarrassing performance, something that really, really spooks many fans, mostly casual fans, unfortunately. Well, the U.S. gets grouped? I don't think so. But this game certainly shakes the confidence of, every fans, casual or diehards like myself, about the direction of the U.S. Christian Pulisic looked absolutely terrible. He had a very heavy touch. Played hero ball, just didn't really care much about it. He got benched early in the second half, looked pissed. He has no one else to blame but himself. Certainly, I think one of the reasons why people are thinking why he's struggling so bad right now, even with the AC Milan, is the breakup with his girlfriend, a professional golfer, more than 6 months ago. I won't delve too much into any speculation about that. He's always been somewhat of a streaky player. Right now, as much as great as Pulisic is, again, he's a streaky player. If he's on his game, the U.S. will play great. But it's a massive reality check: defense, goalkeeping, and then the status of Christian Pulisic. He needs to certainly get his head out of his own ass, for the lack of better terms. But certainly. scary situation involving U.S. They play Portugal this Tuesday again in Atlanta on TNT. Very, very curious how this team
So likely that
responds.
game. I don't have any confidence in them. They'll probably get blown out.
Right. And then we'll see. We'll see. This is not an ideal way to, play, the remaining exhibitions. Will Pochettino figure it out and go back to the three center back, 3-4-2-1 or something like that? That there are a lot of questions that needs to be answered in a short amount of time. So what I saw on Saturday was really, really discouraging, and does put some serious confidence in the U.S. soccer moving forward. That's my opinion, because Ken was working unfortunately yesterday, so
the only thing I can say about that is that you're supposed to be peaking at this time to get ready for your own World Cup that's going to be played in your country, and the United States is playing like they're playing for a junior team. It's not good. So I don't have any confidence that they'll have any effort against Portugal. Portugal, to me, seems like he's auditioning for another job in Europe. He doesn't seem to be caring at this point. So from what I heard, Stephen, and it wasn't look good. They didn't look good. I have to, and thank you for providing that report on that.
Sure.
But I have to say that I don't have any confidence in this team. Yes, they'll win the group because this group is so easy that they're in. They should win the group. They should get out of it. But
they should get out of it. But from that point on, it's anybody's game right now.
Yeah, and at that point, when they get to, they'll probably have a little confidence coming out of the group because that group is. I think FIFA probably. I don't want to say. I'm just being facetious. FIFA probably fixed the group so they can get out and get attendance for the knockout stage. But they're going to have to find a way to improve this if they're going to have any chance whatsoever. I can see them getting eliminated in their first knockout game. They'll get.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I see Mexico and Canada playing well, probably getting to the group of 16, but I don't see anything after that, Stephen. It's just really, it's really sad. It really is. We felt a lot more confidence, even in a team. No, we didn't feel any confidence out of the World Cup in Qatar. We didn't feel that they played very well, Stephen. They're right now playing worse. I don't know how this happened, but they're playing worse, and I think that. It's at least in the games when the matches that the friendlies they played before that World Cup in Qatar, you had a little confidence saying, okay, here's a team that's coming together. They want to play well. They're going to try, and at least we'll see if they can get out of the group, which they didn't. But I don't see any confidence right now. I don't see them. They'll get out of the group, but I don't see anything else after that. I really don't.
Right. It's just mentally and physically. I just think that the U.S. used to be in the past that was known for grittiness and toughness. Now that was because mostly, a lot of the players weren't exactly technically as sound or savvy. Like, we see some of these guys are known as, the golden generation of sorts. I think there's a lot of criticism that to be had about maybe we overrated this generation, the Pulisic, McKinney, Adams, Wares, and Serginho Destes of the world. We probably overrated them to a degree. We'll find that answer in a few months from now, certainly. But yesterday's performance really was a reality check, and you only have a few months to fix this. What happens will have a massive ramification, in my opinion, on the U.S. soccer, especially on the men's side, as well as on the MLS side. Both short and long term, in my opinion, if U.S. doesn't really put up a better effort or showing in the World Cup moving forward. All right, Ken. Well, listen. Thank you so much for doing this on your busy Sunday evening. Really a lot to talk about today for,
we did.
We had a good conversation.
And Duke UConn took up a lot of our And don't forget about that. By the way, John Shire has just left the press conference in Washington, D.C. I think there's going to be some questions about John Shire's coaching, especially a game which they should have won, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely.
John Shire is going to come back. There's no doubt about that, but I think he may be on a short leash because Duke expects. I mean, this is a game that Mike Krzyzewski never would have lost, but I told you, when challenged, Duke just does silly things out there, and that's what happened today. Duke, UConn, give them credit. They just kept coming back, and they reduced the lead, and then it got down to 3 points, and then I don't know what they did. I really don't know what the kids are doing out there trying to make silly passes and not realizing that you have players on the side. You can just make your passes to the side, bounce passes, and waste time and get fouled instead of trying to make a YOLO throw and then getting a 3 on you. So Duke deserved to lose this game. They really did.
Right. And there's a question that needs to be discussed, on the wake of, North Carolina, their longtime arch rival, firing Hubert Davis this week after they got bounced in the first round. Who's underachieved more recently? Is it UNC or Duke? There's a case being made, with Duke for all their talent and prestige. They've certainly underachieved considering the amount of talent that they have assembled in the recent years, for sure.
And again, they in a time when they could easily have won the game, they fold.
Absolutely.
And this is the second year in a row, and John Shire has to do some soul searching on that. Anyway, thank you very much. We could talk about this for years, and we can talk. I love Duke suffer. It's very good to watch. So I enjoyed that 3-pointer, and we got this, and those of you who are with us live, I'm sure you watched it as well as us having us stream. Thank you for the 87 people who watched this. We'll be back again next Sunday. Next Sunday will be the women's final. We'll probably be on after the women's final. We'll also talk about the men's Final Four. By that time, we'll see if Stevens Illinois Fighting Illini
we'll still be in it or not. We'll find out. Yes.
Or if Steven is happy, smiling like he is right now, or if he's sad, we'll find out. And also we'll discuss who will be in the men's final. So that'll be all fun to watch. We'll discuss next week. And one thing I mentioned in my Substack is the fact that CBS and the NFL are talking right now about renewing their contract. I don't think it's going to come this quickly, but if it does, we'll talk about it next week.
Absolutely. And thanks to Lon Phillips Sullivan, for commenting earlier today. Thank you for watching, and also him and the 87 others who have tuned into our show. Thank you very much. We'll give you more update on our next show, hopefully next week, same time at this time. Enjoy your week, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Double A Team podcast live stream.